At the end of this week's Parsha, the Torah details for us how one should construct the altar for the Beis HaMikdash, for the temple. And the Torah says as follows: when you construct the altar, the Mizbeach, out of stones, do not use iron tools to cut those stones. Very interesting. Why does the Torah say that one should not use iron tools to cut those stones? The Torah says as follows: because you take those iron tools sometimes and use those for weapons to attack and destroy. And that should not be used for the building of the altar. This seems very bizarre. Just because iron tools are used for a destructive purpose, like attacking and destroying, why can't we use it for a positive purpose, like building of the altar? Why should that prevent the use of a construction for the Mizbeach? One of my favorite Pesach memories is always remembering the song of Dayenu. Dayenu. And one of those sentences in Dayenu really requires some introspection. We sing Pesach night at the Seder, Ilu kervanu lifnei har Sinai, v'lo nasan lanu es haTorah Dayenu. If God had only brought us towards Mount Sinai, but not actually given us the Torah, Dayenu would have been enough. And I'm left scratching my head. Because if we had just gotten to Mount Sinai and not received the Torah, that would probably have gone down as one of the greatest disappointments in history. Guys, Moshe says, we've gotten to Mount Sinai, but guess what? We're not going to receive the Torah. You can just imagine the groan. What does it possibly mean by saying, had we gotten to Mount Sinai but not received the Torah, Dayenu would have been enough? I think the answer lies to a pasuk, to a verse in this week's portion. The Torah says when the Jews got to Mount Sinai and they rested in front of the mountain, the Torah says, Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged ahar, that the Jews rested facing the mountain. But Rashi points out famously that the Torah articulates this in the singular tense, Vayichan, and he rested. Who was he? It was the entire nation of Israel. Ki ish echad b'lev echad, like one man with one heart. The entire Jewish people, made up of millions of people, were all unified, like one person with one heart. Ilu kervanu lifnei har Sinai, had we gotten in front of Mount Sinai, v'lo nasan lanu es haTorah, but we would not have received the Torah, Dayenu would have been enough. You know why? Because we were so unified at that moment. Men, women, and children, of all different demographics, of all different backgrounds. We were all part of Klal Yisrael. We were all part of the Jewish nation, and that's the only thing that mattered. That moment of unity was priceless. Dayenu, it would have been enough just for that. And that's what brings us towards the discussion of how to construct the altar. The altar was constructed with stones. But to take something like an iron tool, which symbolizes destructiveness, which is used for attacks and killings, that is something which is the antithesis of what brings God's presence into this world. God's presence in this world can only be there if we are unified like one person with one heart. We all know the painful truth that when we are not, God's presence leaves us. I think the lesson for us is loud and clear. We look around at Jews today, and there's all different kinds of Jews, all different shapes, sizes, and colors. And we look at another Jew, and we look at him or her, and we think to ourselves, look how different we are. Look how different our yarmulke may be from my neighbor. Look how different the background that I have is from what my cousin has. Look how different we all are. And you know what? That may be very true. We may have our differences. But there's something a lot more important to remember. And that is, despite all the differences we may have with our brothers and sisters, and they may be valid, we have a lot more in common with them. We have a lot more things that unify us. We have a lot more that binds us together. You know what that is? Because we are all one nation that stood on Mount Sinai like one brother with one heart. Let us remember that. Let us remember that despite all the differences we have amongst ourselves, we are all the sons of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the daughters of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov as well. And let us be unified like one person with one heart. I think that's a wonderful lesson for us to emulate from this week's Parsha. Have a wonderful Shabbos.